As fierce battles continue in the Democratic Republic of Congo between rebel soldiers and government troops, is the troubled nation on the way to yet another lengthy and bloody conflict? And why is the international community not doing more to stop the violence? This is Inside Story. Hello again and welcome. I'm James Bays. Conflict has once again broken out in the eastern region of the Democratic Republic of Congo. But violence is no stranger to this nation. Yussa Bunvigiye now explains the events that have led to this current spate of fighting.
The Democratic Republic of Congo's violent history appears to be repeating itself. The man accused of instigating the current violence is General Ntaganda, nicknamed the Terminator. For almost 2 decades, ethnic rivalries have led to fighting across the eastern border. The conflict began in neighboring Rwanda with the 1994 genocide. It drew the DRC into the deadliest war in African history. The country became a killing field that drew in troops from 6 African nations. Nearly 5 million people died, killed by war and starvation. It wasn't until 2003 that an uneasy calm was restored. Again, peace was short-lived. 5 years later, the conflict resurfaced. This time, the Tutsi warlord Lambert Mende was the catalyst. He feared the DRC's government was backing Rwandan rebels who were trying to overthrow the government. So he waged a campaign to destroy the rebel forces. Mende was eventually arrested and peace was negotiated with the help of none other than the Terminator, Ntaganda. He integrated the armed militia into the Congolese army. Some say it was his role in maintaining the peace that kept him out of the International Criminal Court. But earlier this year, rumors resurfaced that the Congolese authorities were ready to hand him over. But the Terminator planned another fight back. At first, General Bosco's band of former rebels and officers were not prepared to fight for him. They feared it would cost them the privileges they now enjoyed. But when those were threatened anyway, they reconsidered. Violence in the DRC has now been raging for almost a month, and if history is any guide, a lasting peace will remain elusive. Yussa Bunvigiye for Inside Story.
So why is the international community not doing more in DRC? To answer this question, we're joined by our panel 3 guests. In Washington, D.C., we have Yussa Bunvigiye, who is from the Congo Global Coalition, an alliance of humanitarian, human rights and environmental organisations specialising on Congo. In London, we have Anneke Van Woudenberg, who's Senior Africa Researcher for Human Rights Watch. Anneke worked in Congo for 13 years. And on the line from Kinshasa, Lambert Mende Omalange, who's the Minister of Communication for the Democratic Republic of Congo. Can I start with you, Yussa, and try and explain this to our viewers, because it is complex, but explain to us a very simple question. Who is fighting who right now in Eastern Congo?
In Eastern Congo, there is a group of soldiers who disagree with the government for non-respect of the agreement which they signed in November 23rd, 2009, which the government never fulfilled, irrespective of the fact that they were given more than 3 years to fulfill their end of the bargain.
So they're people, let's just get it clear, they're people who have who've mutinied from the National Army, but these people were previously rebels, weren't they?
They were previous rebel under a group called CNDP. They did agree with the government to end hostilities, to make some meaningful reforms in order for the people of Congo, especially in Eastern Congo, to be given a chance to have a normal life. But since 2009, the government has dragged its feet. It has never fulfilled a single agreement. The only thing they did, they signed the agreement, then everything else was reported to a Greek calendar, whereby, let's see what is going to happen, even though there were pressing issues which were supposed to be resolved by the government: reconciliation, respect of human rights, good governance, which is part of the responsibility of the government to fulfill those sides.
Anneke, tell us your assessment of what's going on right now, how serious the fighting is and how many rebels there are currently fighting the government forces.
Well, there are indeed quite a number of mutineers, but not nearly as many as we might initially have thought. So the estimates are about up to 800 mutineers who are currently fighting the Congolese army. They're doing so in an area called Rutshuru, very close to the Rwandan and the Ugandan borders. And like the previous guest said, these are individuals from a former rebel group, the CNDP. They are, however, led by an individual wanted by the International Criminal Court, Bosco Ntaganda, who began this mutiny in late March and early April. Now, indeed, they do claim, of course, that they've launched this mutiny because the government did not agree to the March 23, 2009 peace agreement. Hence, they've called themselves M23 to delineate or to link themselves to these agreements. But I would want to disagree. I actually think the government did do some of the things that were in the agreement. You know, many of these rebels became senior officers in the Congolese army. For the past 3 years, they have had very top positions in Eastern Congo. In fact, so much so that they almost created an army within an army. The government did not prosecute any of them. Part of that was in the agreement, despite objections from human rights groups. And the government agreed not to send them to other parts of the Congo. So in some ways, in fact, the mutineers' grievances that the government has not fully adhered to what it promised in 2009 is not completely true. I actually think one of the major reasons behind the mutiny was the fact that Bosco Ntaganda was becoming under the spotlight. There were increasing calls for his arrest, and there were increased efforts by the government to weaken his control. And I think that largely led to the mutiny.
Well, we'll come to General Bosco in a moment and look at his role in detail. But Minister in Kinshasa, can I get your view first? How serious do you believe this rebellion, this mutiny is?
I think the lady is saying the truth. We think that these guys have been integrated in the army following this agreement of 2009. And we clashed with them because they were fearing after the judgment of The Hague against Mr. Lubanga, who was a close ally to Mr. Bosco Ntaganda, their boss. They were fearing that we could arrest Ntaganda and send him to The Hague. That is the first issue. The second is that they refused completely to be sent away from Kivu, and they wanted to make a communitary army, what cannot exist. An army that is there just to protect the members of their own tribe, their own ethnic group. And this is not possible within a real and serious army. That is why they refused to be sent to other provinces, like some others of their friends who went to Kananga. Thousands of them were already sent to Kananga for their duty. Those were people reluctant to obey to these duty centers from the army. And we have just to make the law be accepted. Ntaganda must be arrested now because he restarted to kill people and going here and there, looting. So we have to arrest him and have him held before a court, Congolese court before.
Okay,
and then
Minister.
we shall see if he can be sent to The Hague.
OK, Minister. Well, it's clear that you're blaming one man, General Bosco Ntaganda, for masterminding the uprising. His nickname is the Terminator, and he's accused of committing crimes against humanity. Ntaganda is the former commander of the National Congress for the Defence of the People. That's an armed militia operating in the DRC's northern Kivu province. He's wanted by the International Criminal Court for allegedly using child soldiers in an earlier conflict. Human Rights Watch says he's recruited dozens more since April. And Ntaganda is also accused of leading the mutiny against the army. Can I ask you, Yussa, to explain to us whether you think he is the sole leader of this? Is it all about one man?
I do think that, well, I disagree with what the minister has presented because as a country, the DRC has the responsibility to its people, to the international community and to the regional community. The DRC has been given an opportunity by both the international community and the regional community to create conditions where people in Congo will live normally. Bosco Ntaganda is one individual out of a number of fighters opposing the government. There are various Mai militia groups in the Kivu region which have been operating for quite a number of years, and the government has failed to address that issue. I mean, I don't buy the fact that Bosco is the issue. Before Bosco, when Bosco joined the national army, the militia Mai were still there in the bush, fighting, sometimes destroying the people. I disagree with Madam Van Eyck, who said that the issue is Bosco. No, the issue is not Bosco. The issue is how can a government which has the support of the international community, the regional community, fail to bring sanity in its own backyard. Mind you, with almost more than 20,000 peacekeeping force on the soil in Congo, but there is no clear result. And to me, if there is a result, is because fundamentally the government, the administration in the Congo has problems within itself, has checks and balances they have to bring so that we can see sanity and peace for people of Eastern Congo.
Anneke in London from Human Rights Watch. I know that you have said there are fresh allegations of child soldiers. Tell us what evidence you have of that.
Well, I've just come back from Eastern Congo, and in fact we were documenting again that Bosco Ntaganda and those who have joined him in his mutiny have been recruiting children, some as young as 12 in the past few weeks. We know that they've recruited at least 149 of them. I expect the figure is much higher. And these are children who were rounded up at schools, some of them taken from their homes or taken as they were going about their activities in the fields or guarding the cows. They were dragged out to be put in military uniforms and then taken to the front line by Bosco Ntaganda's forces, often forced to porter weapons and ammunition and being put directly into the front lines. Now, I myself spoke to a number of these children, and I have to say what I find so astonishing, of course, here is that Bosco Ntaganda is wanted on this very same crime, a war crime of recruiting and using children, already by the International Criminal Court, and he, of course, is continuing to commit these same atrocities. Look, I don't want to pretend that just arresting Bosco Ntaganda is going to make a paradise in Eastern Congo. It won't. But we do need to tackle this culture of impunity and this constant cycle of promoting individuals who start armed groups or who start mutinies or who start rebel group, promoting them to general or to top officials, because it is a vicious cycle where some of these individuals will see that the fastest way to promotion in the Congolese army or in the Congolese government is to commit such atrocities and to start armed groups.
Well,
so
Anneke, a short time ago, we managed to get hold of a spokesman for the March the 23rd movement. We put the allegations that you made to them, the allegations that there are child soldiers. They said to us, we could come with our cameras. Al Jazeera's actually had a team there in the last 24 hours. They said there would be no proof, no child soldiers there. Have a listen to what he had to say.
Whatever allegations, you're welcome. You can call us, you can even send you guys to see on ground what is being done.
OK, well, can you clear something up for us? Because it's not clear who your leader is. Can you tell us, is your leader General Bosco Ntaganda?
Bosco Ntaganda is not our leader. You know, he's the one who betrayed our leader, General Ntaganda. After General Ntaganda being arrested by Rwanda, we were forced to integrate the National Army.
OK, Minister Mende in Kinshasa, what do you make of the allegations that there are child soldiers there? And also, who do you believe is leading this rebel movement that you're fighting right now?
First of all, I will answer to the gentleman who is talking of duty or opportunity given to Congo by international community, regional community. I would like him to forget that Congo is a province or an entity of a country called the international community or regional community. We are a full country. We have our own interests. We have criminals acting within our country. We don't have appointment with the international community or regional community to say we must stop this criminality between this time and this one. We are just working for peaceful. We are working for security of our people.
Okay, you've made that point. You've made that point clearly, sir. Can I ask you about the question of child soldiers? Do you believe there are child soldiers, and who is leading the rebel movement? What's your assessment from the government in Kinshasa?
The leader of this movement we are facing in the field is General Ntaganda. They are trying to deceive people, to tell lies, creating a movement like M23 with Colonel Makenga, who is a member of the CNDP of Ntaganda, just to hide Ntaganda because they know Ntaganda is a criminal, so they don't like to want now the name of Ntaganda be spoken, and they are creating a new so-called leader. We are facing Ntaganda and his elements.
Okay, you've made that clear. You made that clear. I'd like to come back, sir. You made that clear. I'd like to come back to that point in a moment. Just on the allegation of child soldiers, please. Do you have proof of that?
About soldiers,
child soldiers. Fresh allegations.
I don't hear you clearly. Excuse me.
Fresh allegations that child soldiers are being used right now in eastern Congo by the rebels that are fighting your government.
Yes, what we know is that there is some recruitment of kids and other adult elements by Bosco Ntaganda, and this is one of the reasons why the higher command of the army have decided this offensive.
OK, let me bring in Yussa in Washington, D.C. You've heard the minister there. He's putting the blame firmly in the hands of a man who used to be in his army, who used to be a general, someone who was integrated into the Congolese army. Do you think that was a mistake? Some say it was a pact with the devil.
I think the government, especially the minister, is just playing the old way of the government. It's everybody else's fault, not the government fault. Before, it was, the regional people are fighting us, international people are fighting us. You are given the opportunity to try and solve these problems. You don't solve it. You don't discuss. You don't bring sanity within the government. Mr. Minister, can you tell people here on this international news media that you don't have problem within yourself, within the government, of corruption, of nepotism, which has prevented yourself to create conducive atmosphere for people to be efficient in whatever you give them as a responsibility.
Minister, your answer.
And that's the claim of some of these people.
OK. Minister, your answer to that question, please.
You are kidding, my friend. How do you think that because we have problems of corruption or what, it gives you opportunity to go to war? If anybody, anywhere, you find a problem of corruption allows people to land in war, then we should have war everywhere in the world. What are you speaking of? You are making criminality. You are killing people, and you are taking the opportunity to say that because they are not negotiating with us, because there is some malfunction to the administration of the country. That is why we are killing people. This is killing. This is criminality.
OK, let's bring in Anneke from Human Rights Watch. There's certainly a big problem with corruption in Congo. Is it a factor in causing conflict? And can I ask you also about the other point that we just raised? Was it a mistake, looking back with hindsight now, to have integrated these rebels in the army in the first place?
Well, let me start with that second one. Look, it was certainly a mistake to integrate Bosco Ntaganda as a general in the Congolese army back in 2009. At that point in time already, he was wanted by the International Criminal Court. It was well known to the Congolese government, well known to the world. The Congolese government, of course, has had 3 years to arrest him and hasn't done so. I am grateful to hear that the Congolese government has changed its mind on that, and that now the position is extremely clear that they will arrest him and that he will be brought to justice. So I do think that that's a step forward. I deeply regret that that has not been done earlier. You know, Human Rights Watch has been documenting for years and years the continued brutal and cruel abuses by Bosco Ntaganda, including when he was a general in the Congolese army. So, you know, it'd be interesting to hear the minister say why there weren't any arrests earlier when he was wining and dining in the top restaurants in Goma, playing tennis on the Congolese tennis courts. You know, I ran into him frequently in Goma. I'm sure the minister himself may have had the opportunity to have done the same. So it's good that there is now finally clarity that he will be arrested and an operation is in place to do that. I wish it had come earlier.
Minister, perhaps you can answer that point. Why didn't you arrest him earlier? Why didn't you send him to The Hague for trial where he's indicted for war crimes?
I think we have explained enough why we did decide not to arrest Mr. Ntaganda. If we didn't arrest him, it is because we like to give a chance to peace. Do you
think now, Minister, that was a mistake? Do you think that was a mistake?
No, not at all. If you have information about what is going on in the field, you must know that it was not at all a mistake. Ntaganda brought back to our barracks more than 4,000 elements who were fighting with him and Laurent Nkunda. Now that we went in rebellion, only 10% of these boys followed him. We kept in barracks and we are redeploying more than 3,000. I think that these figures give us reasons why we decided to act like we acted, because we saved the lives of Congolese out of the hands of 4,000 people. Only we are now crashing, trying to bring back to the justice 500 or 600 of them, but the most numerous are still with us in barracks, and Ntaganda is the one who brought us. And if we arrested him at that time, those boys would not come back to barracks.
OK, Yussa in Washington, D.C. Anything the international community can do there? The UN have some 19,000 troops in Congo. Should they be doing more?
I do think that the UN has somehow let the Congolese people down, and the government in the Congo, I'm very sorry, Mr. Minister, but if you talk about death of people, how come somebody like Floribert Chebeya was killed, Armand Tungulu were killed, and those cases were not brought to an open court? They were directly handled by a military tribunal. Do you think that you have the system and the institutions and the capacity to run these courts in an efficient and civil manner?
Okay.
If you could take the case
can I ask Anneke that point? Anneke, do you think the UN that's there in Congo and the international community in general should do more? A quick answer, please.
Look, a quick answer would be yes, they should do more. I think they have taken more steps in the past couple of years to enhance protection of civilians. I'd like to see them do more of that. And look, you know, the current fighting has again displaced tens of thousands of people. Again, we're seeing recruitment of children and other kinds of abuses. There are, of course, other armed groups also committing horrific abuses. Look, the Congolese do need the assistance of the international community. The UN is part of the tool to help do that. But of course, it is the Congolese government's responsibility to protect its citizens, and we need them to step up and reform their army, get rid of these abusive generals, make sure they're brought to justice and not promoted.
Anneke, thank you. Giving us the inside story on the Democratic Republic of Congo were our guests. From Washington, D.C., Yussa Bunvigiye. In London, Anneke Van Woudenberg and Lambert Mende Omalange on the line from Kinshasa. Thank you all for your time, and thanks also to you. What did you think about our discussion on what and where should we shine our spotlight next time around? Let us know by email. InsideStory@aljazeera.net. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye now.